Channel for the second part of my Wheel of the Year tarot. The 1st of August is upon us. So quickly it seems in 2021, and of course that's Lughnasadh or Lammas in the Wheel of the Year. So it is the first of 3 harvest festivals, and it gets its name from Lugh, the Irish sun god, who was the god of arts and crafts and creativity and the sun. It was in some tales it was a funeral festival for his foster mother, and it's all tied in with the first harvest, grains and rye, all those first crops to be harvested. So crops and grains and bread and rye and beer, all of that is a big part of Lammas. Also, the sun, sunflowers, the colours are all the sunny colours, so the golds, the bronzes, the yellows, that's all part of Lammas. You've got animals such as crows and pigs, calves, salmon. You've got all the yellow citrine crystals. Although we're still in summer, it's a time for being grateful for whatever harvest you've got coming in, to take a moment to reflect with gratitude at the harvest and the abundance around you. Abundance is still a key word in this festival at this time of year. So we've still got the sun of summer, first harvest, but it is the descent now into the darker part of the year. We are midpoint now at Lughnasadh between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. So we are descending into the darker part of the year. So it's time to take stock and reflect before we hit autumn. For me, it's a time of remembrance and gratitude. That links me into ancestor work. For me, I think Lughnasadh is a time to be grateful for the people in the past that worked the land and provided, and that does tie you into ancestor work and gratitude. It's a time to be grateful for Mother Earth, for the land. For me, this really feels like a earth festival. It's a time to give back to the earth. I take offerings out to my sunflowers in the garden. Sunflowers are a huge part of Lammas. I work in the garden. I cut back as well. I do harvest. This is really difficult for me to do. I have discovered through gardening that I don't like cutting things away or letting go, whereas harvest time is very much about letting go, and it provides space. So I try and embrace that in the garden at this time. I feed the plants that I've already got. I re-fertilise the roses at this time of year as well. And I also work with citrine at this time of year, because this is a renewing stone and a stone of abundance. It's literally got the power of the sun within it. And I have a tendency to get a little bit down at this time of year, just because I've worked so hard for the garden, and yet I start to see things start to die and need cutting back. And I sometimes wonder, what was the point at this time of year? So citrine is a really good stone to sit in gratitude with. It's a good stone for writing gratitude lists and keeping focused on the positive, on the power of the sun, because I need it at this time of year. So offerings in my garden, beginning to harvest my own things in the garden. overcoming the sadness of cutting things back that have finished, accepting change, releasing, letting go, working with citrine, working with golds and the power of the sun, embracing Mother Earth, gratitude lists, journaling about my own personal harvest in my life. It's all part of Lammas, but this series focuses on how those different aspects of Lammas can apply to tarot decks. So what tarot decks do I have that also make me think of Lammas or Lughnasadh? So we're going to go through the prompts again, this time for Lughnasadh. So the first prompt is keywords of Lughnasadh. Pick a keyword and what tarot deck do you think of? So I wrote down some keywords. Again, abundance is in there. That was in there for Letha as well. So there is abundance, harvest, grain, sunshine, gratitude, thankfulness. So I went with the keyword harvest this time. And for me, the deck that makes me think of harvest is a new deck to me. It's a deck that I've been after for a while and I found it secondhand, and that's this one, the Celtic Wisdom Tarot. Now, if any deck makes me think of a Celtic festival of harvest time, it's this one. The backs are this beautiful sunny colour. The cards for me really do sum up the idea of a harvest time and abundance. You've got the cauldron in there. Now I work with the Dagda, and the Dagda's cauldron is a cauldron of abundance where none leave hungry. So whenever I see a cauldron in any cards, I think of the Dagda. You've got lots of sunshine in here and lots of these lovely bronzy goldy colours as well. It is just really a deck that makes me think of Lughnasadh. So my keyword deck around the keyword of harvest is the Celtic Wisdom Tarot. The next is the colours of Lughnasadh. Now it's the sun colours, yellow, golds, oranges, bronzes, all of those colours, also green as well in there. I couldn't decide between two decks. Two decks immediately jumped into mind, so I'm going to show them both. The first one is the Shining Tribe Tarot. This is a deck I haven't worked with yet. I got it right at the end of last year. Really cheap and secondhand. I couldn't believe it. I thought at first it might possibly be a fake, but it turned up and it wasn't. So you've got these backs which are this lovely orangey yellow colour, and it's just the colour scheme of the whole deck. It's edged in this sort of corn yellow, and it looks like a sun-bleached landscape with lots of yellows and greens and oranges and bronzes. If any deck reminds me of the colours of Lughnasadh, it's this deck. And then the second deck is this one, the Wisdom Seekers Tarot. It couldn't be more orange and yellow and gold if it tried. The backs are just plain orange, and the cards are very much remind me of the colours of this season. So you've got lots of oranges, lots of greens, lots of yellows. The cup suit is more blue, but we'll forgive it that. The swords is way more yellow. The wands is all of this kind of orangey colour. And then through the majors, you've got this kind of Lammas-y feel. I think it's the wands in here that really do make me think of Lughnasadh. Prompt 3 is the animals of Lughnasadh. Now I looked up this online and it's things like calves, crows, pigs, roosters, salmon. I did see deer as well in there. I very nearly picked the Crow Tarot because the crow was on there. However, the Crow Tarot doesn't make me think of all the sunny golden colours of this time of year or harvest time. But this deck does the Bohemian Animal Tarot. This is brand new to me. I haven't worked with it yet. It is absolutely fantastic. I flipped through it. I love it. And I think I picked it because it's got beautiful gold gilt edges, which for me completely sums up this time of year. That idea of fields full of swathes of corn. The edges as well are kind of corn coloured. You've got this sort of orangey, browny, bronzy back. And I think the whole deck is abundant with colour and fun, and it just makes me think of this time of year. I think the abundance in the colours, you've got lots of yellows in there as well. It's just really rich and abundant to go along with harvest time. So that is the Bohemian Animal Tarot, the deck that the animals of Lughnasadh remind me of. But what will your deck be? Perhaps you might go for the Crow Tarot or something else. So the next prompt is the celebrations of Lughnasadh. Now, a lot of the celebrations revolve around food because you're harvesting in grains, and bread making is just a massive part of this festival. So making bread, putting sunflower seeds on top of bread as well, all of that just makes me think of this time of year. And if you're making bread and bringing bread into the mix, for me, the tarot deck that has to go with that is the Carnival at the End of the World Tarot. That's because of the Pentacles suit in here, which is all to do with bread. I love this deck. I love the cardstock of it, the linen cardstock. I love all the suits. I think it is amazing. I did call this a soul deck. If you haven't seen my video on it, I'll link it below. But I absolutely love the Pentacles with the pentagram on all of the loaves of bread. It really does bring that earthy feeling of Lammas into play. You've got the Queen of Pentacles, who's literally a walking harvest. The King of Pentacles standing atop his bread oven. For me, if we're thinking about the celebrations, the eating of bread that happens at Lammas or Lughnasadh, it has to be this deck. And prompt 5 is let's get personal. What does it actually personally mean to you? So I think thinking back to the bread, it's summer salads, it's an abundance of things in the shops to do with salad. We're not on those warm winter stews yet. It's the salad days with crusty fresh bread. It's summer holidays. Now, summer holidays for me as a kid, and even now, it's about being able to gather all of my things around me, all my painting things, all my books, all my tarot decks, and not having it broken up with school or the school run. It's about being able to sit surrounded by my hobbies. When I was a girl, that meant disappearing into the caravan in the garden that my parents had bought me as an art studio. Now again, it's caravans involved as well. I go off to Wales, I load the car with paints and tarot decks and journals and books to read, and I know I'm going to cocoon myself in some free weeks where I'm on my own, just sitting with my hobbies. So there's an abundance of hobbies, and when I think of that, I think of this deck, which is this one, the Enchanted Tarot. Now this is by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. I absolutely love this deck. This is the 25th anniversary edition. It's still available. It's these great big cards with this back, which is sort of bronzy gold, which in itself reminds me of Lughnasadh. But I think it's the abundance in this and the fact that it's textile art. A lot of that time of hermiting myself away inside caravans and surrounding myself with all the things I love to do, mostly meant textile art, sewing and knitting and crochet and embroideries onto canvas. Textile art and being free to do it has been a huge part of this time of year. So for the abundance of hobbies, playing with colour, playing with textiles, sticking things together, creating art, a lot of it sewn art, and just being able to fall into the joy of the abundance of the things I love at this time of year, then for me it had to be the Enchanted Tarot. And for exactly the same reason, that's why for prompt 7, which is an oracle deck that reminds you of this time of year, so a Lughnasadh oracle deck, I've gone for another Amy Zerner and Monty Ferber oracle, the Creativity Oracle, for exactly the same reasons that I chose the Enchanted Tarot. You've got this beautiful gold gilding as well, which is absolutely Lughnasadh through and through. And you've got all of these creative quotes on one side and all of this textile art again on the other. So for exactly the same reasons, this deck works for me. It reminds me to be grateful for the creative sparks I've got inside me. It makes me be grateful for the time I get to create, for my creativity resources. It makes me be super grateful for fabrics and pens and paints and canvases and a house with enough space to set up an art studio. This just makes me want to disappear and create. So the Creativity Oracle is definitely an oracle which works for me for Lammas or Lughnasadh. However, I couldn't just leave it with that one because I really wanted to pick this one. The Celtic Oracle just reminds me of sort of this Celtic path through the year. It just reminds me of the Wheel of the Year. It reminds me of many of the Sabbats actually, but I think particularly the yellow of Lughnasadh as well. And you've got like greens in there. You've got cauldrons, because that idea of plenty in the cauldron, it does remind me of the Dagda. This isn't the Dagda, this is the Lady of the Cauldron, which I think is a super card. But it's just got that Celtic feel that makes me think of collecting in a harvest. And here's editing me back with my little straw Lughnasadh mouse, which I bought for my altar. You'll stand up, there we go. Because I missed a prompt. I missed the nature of this time of year. What do you think about when you think of nature for Lughnasadh? So I'm going to put this one in this time as prompt number 6. And for me, the tarot deck that sums up the nature is this tiny little mini fairy tarot deck. And I think that because of the colours and the fact that there are acorns used. I love this deck. It's so cute. You've just got there's lots of yellows and browns. It's just a really cute landscape that has kind of that summer vibe going into autumn vibe, and it's got that very sort of pale bronzy yellow feel. With this deck, I love all of these little scenes at the bottom that go with what initially looks like quite a pippish deck, but when you look again at all of the little images at the bottom of the minors, you will see that actually there's a lot more going on than just a pip deck. Got some fantastic court cards. Yeah, just you can see, look here, can you see it's all going on to match? I just think it's fantastic little deck.
So I've picked this as the nature at Lughnasadh or Lammas, just because a lot of these landscapes are very yellow and orange or green. Yeah, I just love it. I think it's a fantastic little deck. So for the missing prompt that got me all confused when I was editing, I'm going to put this in as prompt number 6, the nature of Lammas. What deck do you think of when you think about the nature at Lughnasadh?
So that's it, guys. Those are my decks of Lughnasadh with the colours, the keywords, the animals, the celebrations, what it means to you, and oracle decks as well thrown in for good measure. What tarot decks sum up Lughnasadh for you? Do you also have a bonus oracle deck you can throw in as well to share? Come and join in with the Wheel of the Year Tarot. I'd love to know. And happy Lughnasadh, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.